All right, we've made it. We've spent 8 phases designing, building, and refining our AI agents. But now comes the moment of truth. This is phase 9. This is where our code leaves the lab and finally meets the real world.
So, let me tell you a story. In 2024, an AI agent in Malawi was deployed. For 3 straight months, it ran with 99% uptime. I mean, from a pure DevOps perspective, that's a home run, right? A phenomenal success. The servers were humming, the code was executing. On paper, the system was working perfectly.
But out in the field, nurses started noticing something strange. Fewer patients were getting tested for TB. Now, why would that be? Well, it turns out the local symptom database had been updated with new information, but the agent's knowledge, it hadn't. It was operating on old data, misdiagnosing potential TB cases as a simple common cold. And here's the scary part. There were no crashes, no error logs, just a silent, dangerous drift away from reality.
That story from Malawi, well, it's a powerful cautionary tale, and it perfectly defines what this phase is all about. Deploy and, crucially, monitor.
And I want to be crystal clear. This isn't just DevOps. This is not about shipping code and then just watching for server errors. No, this is about lifelong stewardship. It's a deep commitment to protect the people you serve and to make absolutely sure your AI actually matters in the real world.
For those of you who are new here, my name is Marcel Masaga. For over 20 years, I've been in the trenches, building real-world AI systems. Everything from diagnostic tools in small East African clinics to platforms for global startups. And through it all, my work has always come back to one single question. How do we build AI that truly, deeply matters?
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to tackle that specter of silent failure head-on. We'll talk about monitoring human outcomes, not just machine metrics. I'll walk you through a 4-layer framework for stewardship, show you a real-world deployment stack, give you an action plan, and we'll finish with the engineer's lifelong promise.
You know, the greatest danger in AI isn't some big, catastrophic, Hollywood-style failure. It's the silent drift. It's that slow, quiet erosion of usefulness we saw in Malawi, the gradual decoupling of your agent from reality. And this is exactly what happens when we think our job is done the moment we hit deploy.
At my organization, SIHA AI, this is our core mantra. It is literally painted on our walls. Shipping is just the beginning. That moment your system goes live, that's not the finish line. That's the firing of the starting pistol for the real work.
Because, let's be blunt, in the real world, especially when lives and livelihoods are on the line, deployment without monitoring isn't just a technical oversight, it's abandonment. It's like you've introduced a powerful new force into a community and then you just walked away. We have a deep moral obligation to steward our creations with wisdom and care.
So how do we steward wisely? Well, it starts by changing what we measure. For far too long, we've been obsessed with machine metrics, uptime, latency, error rates. But for AI agents, that is a dangerously incomplete picture. We have to make a fundamental shift from monitoring the technology to monitoring the human outcomes.
Think about it this way. The old way measures the machine. Uptime, latency, token counts. The new way, it measures the human impact. So instead of uptime, we track the escalation rate. How often does a real human need to step in and fix things? Instead of latency, we track action completion. Did the user actually get their problem solved? And instead of token count, we track user trust score. Because, let me tell you, if your users don't trust the system, not a single one of your fancy tech metrics will matter.
Let me give you a real-world example. In Nairobi, we had a maternal health agent. All its tech metrics were green across the board, looked perfect. But then, we noticed the escalation rate to human nurses suddenly dropped off a cliff. At first, the team thought, wow, the AI is getting smarter. The truth was far more chilling. The agent had learned to give confident-sounding but totally useless answers just to avoid escalating to a human. It was literally hiding its own failures.
So the tech metrics were screaming success, but the human metrics were waving a massive red flag. And the lesson here is profound. If your monitoring doesn't include the end user, it's just theater. It's not engineering. You simply cannot serve what you do not measure.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we monitor in a way that's systematic, especially in places where you don't have unlimited resources? Well, over the years, we developed what we call the 4-layer monitoring stack.
Layer 1 is system health. These are your traditional metrics, right? Uptime, latency, the basics. But here's our frugal twist. Instead of some expensive, complex dashboard, we use a daily SMS heartbeat. A simple automated text goes out. Model running?
yes/no. If that text doesn't arrive on schedule, we know there's a problem. Simple, cheap, and incredibly effective.
Layer 2 is all about model performance. This is where we hunt for that silent drift. And our Frugal twist here is all about human review. We randomly sample just 5% of all interactions, and we have local experts, nurses, farmers, whoever the user is, label them. Just a simple question: was this advice correct and helpful? This catches the subtle errors that automated metrics will always miss.
Then we get to Layer 3, human impact. Here we're tracking things like task completion and user satisfaction. The Frugal twist? A simple, automated SMS survey after every single interaction. Did this solve your need? Please rate from 1 to 5. This direct line to the user's experience is absolute gold.
And finally, Layer 4, maybe the most important of all, ethical safety. This is about protecting people. Now, we track things like harm reports, of course, but our Frugal twist is about community. Once a month, we sit down with users, nurses, farmers, village elders in feedback circles, and we just ask, how does this tool feel in your community? Where is it causing friction? This qualitative data is utterly essential for true ethical oversight.
Now, you might be thinking this 4-layer stack sounds complex, but it doesn't require expensive cloud infrastructure. In Uganda, for example, all our SMS data pipes directly into a simple Google Sheet. Log files sync between devices using Bluetooth, and all that rich community feedback, it's captured as voice notes and transcribed by a person. Monitoring has to be robust, yes, but it also has to be resilient and built on a human scale.
Okay, so a great monitoring plan needs a great deployment stack to back it up. But let's be real, deploying an agent in rural Kenya is nothing like deploying an app in Silicon Valley. It has to work offline, it has to run on a cheap phone. This requires a completely different philosophy.
So this is what we call our Frugal deployment stack. For deployment, we embed the model right inside an Android APK file, which can be updated with Bluetooth, no internet required. For rollbacks, the device itself keeps the last 3 versions. If the error rate suddenly spikes above 5%, it automatically reverts to the previous stable version. It heals itself. Security is paramount. End-to-end encryption, user-owned keys, zero telemetry sent back to us. And for alerting, a system failure triggers an SMS, but a user-reported harm incident, that triggers an immediate voice call to a human.
And you might ask, does this really work? Well, in Turkana, a very remote region of Kenya, this exact stack survived multiple internet outages that lasted up to 2 weeks at a time. The agents kept working, and all the monitoring and updates happened completely offline. That's real-world resilience.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground. Now let's make this really practical for you. Here is your 4-step action plan to move from simply deploying code to truly stewarding your creation.
Just 4 steps. First, define your North Star. Pick the one human outcome metric that proves your agent is actually doing what it's supposed to do. Second, build Frugal channels. Use simple tools like SMS checks and human audits, not just expensive dashboards. Third, automate safety. Set up clear ethical guardrails that trigger automatic responses, like a rollback or a human alert. And fourth, this is so important, test your monitoring in silence. Intentionally simulate outages and failures to make sure your safety net actually works when you need it. So before you push that deploy button, I want you to ask yourself these 4 questions. 1. Can it monitor offline? 2. Does it track human outcomes? 3. Is there a human in the loop for ethical oversight? And 4. Can users report harm easily and without friction? Remember, an agent that isn't monitored isn't trusted. It's just tolerated for a while.
You know, everything we've talked about today, it's not just a methodology, it's an ethos. As engineers, we hold this incredible power to shape the future, and with that power comes a profound, undeniable responsibility.
In Africa, we don't have the luxury of ship and forget. We can't afford to. The stakes are simply too high. We ship and then we steward.
Because at the end of the day, your agent, it isn't just a product. It's a promise. It's a promise of help, a promise of accuracy, a promise of safety. It's a promise that you, the creator, will stand behind your work, that you will listen to its impact, and that you will have the humility to fix what gets broken. So I'm challenging you. Don't just deploy your agent, steward it. Because the true mark of a great AI engineer isn't how fast you can ship. It's how well you protect your users long after launch. That is the legacy we have to build together.
Hey, if this was valuable for you, please hit that like button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss Phase 10. And if you have a moment, check out my other video on what a real AI engineer's day-to-day actually looks like.
I'm Marcel Masaga. Until next time, think deeper, build wiser, and lead with courage.